When your dog looks at you, what do you think he actually sees? Most people would probably say the same thing without even thinking about it. His owner, his favorite person, maybe even his best friend. You come home. The keys rattle softly near the door, and before you can take off your shoes, he is already there waiting, tail moving slowly, eyes fixed on you like he has been listening for your footsteps the entire time. It feels familiar enough that most people stop questioning it. But something much stranger is happening in those moments than owners realize. Because your dog is not looking at you the way humans look at each other, and he is not seeing you the way another dog would either. Science has discovered that the relationship between dogs and humans became something entirely different thousands of years ago. Something no other animal on Earth developed in quite the same way. And once you understand what your dog may actually see when he stares at your face in complete silence, it changes every ordinary moment afterward in a way most people never expect. You may have heard people say that cats see humans as just larger versions of themselves, another animal sharing the same space. And for cats, that idea is not entirely wrong. They move through the house independently, brushing past your legs when they choose to, disappearing into quiet corners for hours without checking where you are. But dogs changed in a completely different way from humans. Long before cities existed, before roads, lights, or doors, dogs were already adapting themselves to us. Over nearly 15,000 years living alongside human beings, they developed social instincts designed specifically for one species, ours. Scientists now call this the human-canine bond, not because dogs simply learned routines or memorized commands, but because their brains slowly evolved around human presence itself. That is why your dog watches the room when you leave it. Why does he relax when you sit nearby? Why the sound of your footsteps affects him differently from anyone else's. To your dog, you are not just another creature sharing the home. You are the center point his nervous system keeps searching for, almost like a living reference for safety itself. And what researchers discovered next about how deeply dogs are wired to understand humans became even stranger. One of the clearest signs that dogs evolved to understand humans appears in something so ordinary that most people never notice it. Imagine standing in your kitchen holding 2 cups on the counter, then quietly pointing toward one of them without saying a word. Your dog will usually follow your finger almost instantly. He looks where you look, moves toward what you mean, as if the gesture itself already carries a message. But what surprised scientists was not that dogs could learn this. It was that even chimpanzees often struggle with the same task. In several studies, researchers compared dogs, wolves raised by humans, and primates placed in identical situations. Food was hidden inside containers while a human pointed toward the correct one. Dogs understood the signal quickly and naturally. Chimpanzees hesitated. Wolves often ignored the gesture completely. That difference changed the way scientists viewed dog intelligence forever. Because your dog is not only reacting to movement, he is trying to understand intention. When you glance toward the door, he notices. When your hand reaches for a leash before a walk, he predicts what comes next before you speak. Even small routines, the sound of a jacket zipper, the shift of your body near the hallway, begin carrying meaning to him over time. Dogs did not simply learn to survive around humans. Somewhere across thousands of generations, they became specialists at reading us. And what researchers discovered happens when you leave the house may explain why that bond feels so unusually deep. Think about what happens a few seconds before you leave the house. You reach for your keys, and from somewhere across the room, your dog suddenly lifts his head. The soft metal sound is enough. Some dogs walk quietly toward the door and sit beside it without making a sound. Others begin pacing across the hallway, nails tapping lightly against the floor, watching every movement as you put on your shoes or pull on a jacket. For a long time, people described this behavior with a simple phrase: separation anxiety. But researchers started looking closer at what was actually happening inside a dog's body during those moments alone. What they found changed the meaning completely. Studies showed that within minutes after an owner leaves, Many dogs experience measurable increases in stress hormones. Their heart rate rises. Their nervous system shifts into a low-level state of alertness, almost like the body is waiting for something important to return. Some dogs stay near windows where sunlight moves slowly across the floor during the afternoon. Others remain beside the door long after the sound of footsteps disappears down the hallway. And what makes this even more emotional is that dogs are not only reacting to absence, they appear to rehearse your return. Small sounds from outside, an elevator stopping, keys jingling in another apartment, can briefly make them stand up and look toward the entrance again. Not because they forgot you left, but because part of them is continuously waiting for you to come back. That is why sudden routine changes can sometimes affect dogs more deeply than owners expect. Calm departures and predictable routines often help them feel safer while waiting for you to return. And scientists later discovered that even when you are gone, there are still two things capable of calming that system almost immediately. Researchers later tried something simple during these separation studies. Dogs were left alone inside quiet rooms with soft lighting, cameras recording their movements as time passed. Some paced near the door, some curled up, but stayed alert to every sound outside. Then the researchers played recordings of their owners' voices through a speaker nearby. The change was almost immediate. Heart rate slowed, pacing decreased. Several dogs stopped scanning the room and settled down beside the sound instead. Not at the sound of just any human voice, specifically the voice they knew best. But what scientists discovered next may have been even more powerful. At Emory University, researchers exposed dogs to different scents while monitoring activity inside the brain. The dogs smelled food, unfamiliar humans, other dogs, and cloth carrying the scent of their owners. Only one scent consistently activated the brain's reward center, the same region connected to pleasure, attachment, and positive anticipation. It was not food, not another animal. It was you. Your scent triggered the strongest response. Think about that for a moment. The jacket hanging near the hallway, the faint smell left on a blanket, the side of the bed where you usually sleep. To your dog, those things are not ordinary objects. They are biological signals connected to safety and relief. Even when the house is quiet and the afternoon light barely moves across the floorboards, your presence still exists there in traces your dog can feel. This is also why familiar blankets, clothing, or sleeping spaces can comfort dogs during stressful moments far more than people realize. And what scientists later discovered about the way dogs read human faces may explain why your dog sometimes notices your emotions before anyone else does. There is another reason your dog sometimes seems to know how you feel before you say a single word. Scientists studying human behavior discovered that when people look at a face, their eyes naturally drift slightly toward the left side first. This pattern is called the left gaze bias. Humans do it automatically because the left side of the face tends to reveal emotion more clearly. What surprised researchers was that dogs show the exact same behavior, but mainly when looking at human faces. In experiments, dogs were shown photographs of people, other dogs, and ordinary objects under controlled conditions. Again and again, their eyes shifted first toward the left side of human faces, almost as if their brains had been trained specifically to search for emotional information there. And this goes far beyond recognizing simple expressions. Dogs can distinguish between happy and angry human faces even when the person is completely unfamiliar to them. A tightening around the mouth, tension near the eyes, the way your shoulders lower when you sit quietly at the edge of a bed after a long day. Your dog notices these changes constantly. Many owners have experienced moments when their dog suddenly walks closer during stressful nights without being called. A dog resting its head silently on someone's lap in a dim living room may not be acting randomly at all. Researchers believe dogs have become highly specialized at reading tiny emotional shifts in humans, the kind most people miss in each other every day. Your dog may not understand your problems the way another human would, but he often recognizes the emotional weight carried in your voice, posture, breathing, and face long before words appear. Dogs often respond more to emotional tone and body tension than to the actual words people say out loud. And what scientists discovered next about the way dogs respond after reading those emotions made the bond feel even more personal. Most people remember at least one quiet moment like this. The room is dim near the end of the evening. Maybe the television is still on, but no one is really watching it. You sit down heavily on the couch after a difficult day, staring at the floor for a few seconds longer than usual, and somewhere nearby, your dog notices. Not with dramatic barking or excitement, but with slow movement. He walks closer carefully, pauses beside you, then rests his head gently across your lap, as if he already understands the mood in the room. What makes these moments feel so personal is that your dog was not commanded to come over. There was no treat, no leash, no routine attached to it. He chose to move toward you on his own. Scientists believe dogs constantly absorb emotional information from the humans around them, often responding before people even realize how tense or withdrawn they have become. Sometimes the response is small, sitting closer than usual, leaning quietly against your leg, staying nearby without asking for attention. And maybe that is why these moments stay in people's memories for years afterward. Because in a silent room, without words or explanations, another living creature noticed something inside you and decided to come closer instead of walking away. Many dogs are not trying to solve human problems in those moments. They are simply trying to stay emotionally close to the person they care about. And there is one final behavior scientists discovered that may explain why this connection feels even deeper than most people realize. Most people think a wagging tail simply means a happy dog, but the movement carries far more detail than that. Researchers discovered that when dogs experience something positive, like seeing their owner return home or recognizing someone familiar, their tails tend to wag slightly more toward the right side. When they feel uncertain or cautious, the movement often shifts more toward the left. It happens subtly, fast enough that most humans never notice it during everyday moments. But other dogs do. In studies from Italy, researchers showed dogs videos of different tail movements. When the tail wagged more to the right, the observing dogs stayed relaxed. When it shifted left, their heart rates increased and their bodies became more alert. Dogs were reading emotional information directly from the movement itself, and direction is only part of the language. A high, loose wag can signal confidence and excitement. A lower, slower wag may reflect hesitation or appeasement. Even a still tail can carry meaning depending on posture and tension. Your dog has been speaking through these tiny movements every single day, not randomly, but with a body language other dogs understand instinctively. A wagging tail does not always mean happiness. Context, posture, and tension still matter when understanding how a dog feels. And strangely enough, all of these signals point back to one final discovery scientists made about the bond between dogs and humans. In 2015, a scientific study quietly changed the way researchers understood the relationship between dogs and humans. The experiment itself was simple. Dogs and their owners sat together in calm rooms with soft lighting, while researchers observed what happened during ordinary eye contact. No commands, no training exercises, just a dog looking at the person it trusted most. And then something remarkable happened inside both brains at the same time. As the dog and owner maintained eye contact, levels of oxytocin began to rise in both of them. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone because it appears during some of the deepest attachment moments in human life, especially between a mother and her newborn child. The longer the gaze lasted, the stronger the response became. Think about that for a moment. Your dog looks into your eyes, and his brain releases the same chemistry human beings use to bond with their babies, and your brain responds back in the same way. This is not imagination, not sentimentality, not humans projecting emotions onto animals because they want companionship. It is a measurable biological loop happening silently between two species. Maybe that is why certain moments with dogs feel strangely difficult to explain. The quiet stare across a room while rain taps softly against the windows. The way your dog looks up at you before falling asleep near your feet. The calm expression waiting beside the door when you finally come home late at night. Your dog is not simply recognizing your face in those moments. He is responding to a connection his nervous system was shaped around for thousands of years. You are the voice that lowers his stress, the scent that activates his reward center. The face of his eyes learned to read more carefully than almost anything else in the world. Your dog does not merely live beside you. In many ways, his brain was built expecting someone like you to exist, and when he looks at you quietly from across the room, he may not see a human at all. He may see the one presence his entire biology was designed to find, and maybe that is why even small daily moments matter so much to dogs. Quiet routines, familiar voices, and simply being near the people they trust. Maybe your dog has been telling you these things for years, and you only just noticed today.